you've got to pick the points which are vulnerable. As I just told you, Disney took over Fox. That was a big mistake for Murdoch, because Murdoch needed the money. He can't run it anymore. His son, who was compromised in England, is now the head of it. But Bob Iger understands, if you refuse to buy Disney products, refuse to go to the Disney movies, refuse to go to the Disney Channel, the children don't listen to Disney. And all of this counterpunching occurs very specifically. In war, you always have to find the center of gravity. The center of gravity right now is Disney, which is highly vulnerable. The reason I know it's vulnerable, because ESPN went into the toilet. I know Bob Iger very well. Tom Clancy and I had problems with him. We know he is not the brightest guy in the world. We know he's desperate, and we know Disney is spinning out of control. So you look at Disney and you start to tell your audience, don't buy the Disney products. Then we shift over to the cable news system and the cable tax, and inform your audience that you no longer want to be in the cable business. So what are people doing? They're literally cutting the cables to say, we're not watching this anymore. And if you have 10
and everything else is plunging. The NFL, the Oscars, they're now saying, oh, don't be political, but they exactly. So here's what I'm saying. Here's what I want the audience to understand. This isn't about Infowars. They admit we've been chosen as the test case. They're going to try to block everybody now, from a local florist to a rock band, to a hip hop group, to a preacher, to an author, or a former spy chief like yourself, stuff like that. I mean, this is a total culture takeover of the internet, and no one even recognizes it. We just got hit with another strike, but they hit David's his own account. Total gentleman, David Knight. Yeah, live from the Infowars News Center in Austin, Texas. I'm Alex Jones. And that's why we have our own video feeds. That's why we have our own audio feeds. But behind the scenes, they're trying to go to all of our big server companies, including overseas, and trying to shut those down. I'm not complaining, okay? And it's smart not to get into all their tactics for a lot of reasons. I'm just telling you, this is a war, people, and these are authoritarians. And David Knight just got hit. And he's a total gentleman. Yeah. I mean, if you want the total gentleman smart show, that's David.
It's like PragerU. I mean, Dennis Prager is...
oh, they're trying to shut him down.
Icon of the conservative.
He's so effective.
He's the most mild-mannered, gentle, like, nicely, whatever guy. He's not like us. He doesn't kind of like, scream and yell and have whatever. We're both out there on the edges of culture fighting like in the front lines. Dennis Prager is establishment of the establishment, right?
But dead on.
Dead on, but he has this PragerU thing, the Prager University on YouTube, with these very nicely produced, very well polished.
Yeah, let's show some of it.
Absolutely gentle, well-judged, completely factual little videos that blow people's minds. Stuff about like...
He'll show like if you don't have 2.2 people born for the parents, society collapses every time. Or he'll show, it's powerful.
It's this stuff about the wage gap, big important subjects. And YouTube has gone after him because he's effective and because he reaches a lot of people with these videos relentlessly. And they did that thing on YouTube, where they take away your sharing options and take away comments. They take away all the virality of the video. So technically, you can still post the video. Technically, you can still have the video online. But it is hobbled. It is kneecapped. It cannot go anywhere.
Which is the authoritarian tactic they know to press.
Embed it.
Well, it's like the Nazis, the Soviet. You always start slow and get people to adapt to the oppression, so that when you finally march down in a ditch to blow your head off, you go along with it.
Four out of the 5 steps, the populace is like, okay, by that time,
All right, I want to go to just genius points. We're going to get into why Dr. Pieczenik was originally joining us, worried about them using sex operatives to try to compromise the president. We'll also get into just the epic media wars going on right now. Again, I don't want to be gonzo journalism here. This is happening, okay? The announcement has been made by News Corp that they met with all the tech heads. This was last week this was announced, and that they are going to go ahead and in the free internet as we know it, not letting anyone have their own website that's shared on any of the big platforms. And They're already targeting all the leftists that aren't political, that have popular channels. They're taking them away, or they're making them go under YouTube control. This is a mafia takeover. And it's so historical. It's so big. I mean, this is history book stuff in how naked and brazen it is, and how they even go, we're going to use Alex Jones as a test case, and we're going to ban him. And then the left's celebrating everywhere. Alex will soon be banned everywhere. And then they CNN, he said the children didn't die, which we didn't say. He said he bullied children. He said CNN has fake town halls, which they do. Yeah. And now let's go to Steve Pieczenik, best-selling author, researcher, ran a lot of different government operations in the State Department with the CIA and others. He's been involved in regime change of authoritarian governments. What do you make of this, Doc? And what do you make of the point we've gotten to? Does this signify they're getting their butt kicked and they're just acting confident when they're in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times going, we're just going to ban everybody, and the free internet is not going to be free anymore? Used to, they would try something like that and not be real honest about it. Now it's some very bizarre psychology, but you are a psychiatrist and, you know, a lot of other things, Dr. Pieczenik. So can you tell us what in the hell is going on here? I mean, looks like a classical authoritarianism and death rows to me, but my God, if the public doesn't get upset because we're just kind of used to the censorship that's been going on, but those were 5-foot waves. These are 200-foot tsunamis coming in right now. I mean, this is just epic level. What do we do?
First of all, let me put some things in perspective, and I'm glad that Milo is there and talk about this. There is a concept within the British Army called forlorn hope. Do you know what I'm speaking about, Milo? Mm-hmm. Forlorn hope means that in Britain, they used to use the Scottish officers or the Scottish men to go and man the embankments and be the first ones to attack the enemy. In other words, they were sacrificial lambs in many ways, while the British eventually came in. In some ways, Alex Jones, the persona in the show, has always been forlorn hope.
Yeah, no, we're the people that hit the barbed wire.
Right. That's what I'm saying, right. And what I'm trying to explain, and I want you to calm down a little bit for selfish reasons, only because this is a long war. This didn't just start yesterday. This didn't just start a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, Hillary was planning it. They admitted this whole plan was about 4 years ago was hatched. Mm-hmm.
Remember, since 9/11, I've been demonetized, delegitimized. I mean, I've been through this so many times that right now Google demonetizes me, shuts me off the air. Now, the question is, what do you want to do about it? If you act as the victim, which is what's happening now with all due respect, then they keep on coming after you. But when you realize that Fox or Murdoch is 88 years old and he has a problem, he can't run his institution, his sons were indicted in England, and guess who took over Fox? It was Disney. Bob Iger, I happen to know from Disney, took over Fox for a $52 billion acquisition. So what does that mean? That means Fox and its subsidiaries, including National Geographic, are in terrible shape. National Geographic can no longer make videos about animals. They're making videos about fighters in Afghanistan, other things. What I'm getting at is you change the position from being forlorn hope to proactive. And that what you require is a kind of a strike among all of us, 11 million of us, who will not go to Disney, who will not buy the Disney products, who will not buy anything to do with Disney. And what happens is at the same time, you call a strike on the cables, particularly the cable systems that are putting in CNN. You see, CNN isn't funded by audience. It's funded by a very tricky system. That means that any cable system that's put in, including your own or somebody else's or Fox and CNN.
Yeah, the carriage.
They all compile together, and they get a percentage of that. If, in fact, your audience or I...
That's right. It's like a TV tax. It's a cable tax that you have to pay for CNN. People don't understand that. It's like BBC. Yeah. You are paying for this flath.
Not the only respect in which it's like the BBC, but it's interesting how these organizations that cannot survive on advertisers or the goodwill of their viewers have to have these stitch-ups in the background to stay active.
Milo's exactly right. So what happens is you refuse to pay the tax, you cut the wires on the cables, and many of your listeners understand what I'm calling about. You short the cable system so that there is no particular audience and no cash flow. Once you hit the cash flows of Disney or the cable tax and those, now you become very effective. And then you begin to understand two things. Number one, Google has a very strong relationship with the United States government. This will be something I will reveal to you, but it's not a great secret, it's just quiet. Google and the National Geospatial Agency, which is an intelligence organization, have a very close relationship. The NGA is basically an institution that was recently created in order to monitor all internet activities, not just on the first level or the second, or what we call the 3-dimension of the internet. The 3-dimension of the internet means the life space of it.
No, I understand. So we got to go to break, Dr. Pieczenik. And by the way, the whole victim thing is, we are being victimized. These are evil people. We have to raise the alarm and then the solution. One reason I've been successful is I cover a lot of news, but I also parrot key talking points that I come up with myself, not Russia or, you know, wherever. And they hate that. And they know that my talking points end up all over the place. And our guest talking points end up everywhere. So I'm just letting the audience know the value of Infowars and why I have been yelling basically for 3.5 hours or 3 hours since I've been on air, because we have to understand we're dealing with hardcore scum. And if these companies would work with communist China and others to suppress information, they'll do anything. And they'd rather work with authoritarians than they'd rather be here in America. I mean, take the Murdochs, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Most of their money's offshore. And they own Fox, try to control conservatism. That doesn't work. And so, like Dr. Pieczenik said, you've got the carrying rights and all the rest of it where, you know, these channels that no one watches, the CNNs and stuff, are force-fed. You are paying for this trash. And so you should let cable companies know. In fact, I do it myself. I told my wife, I said, stop buying from Amazon. He's trying to shut us down to the Washington Post. And she goes, but you sell stuff on Amazon. And my wife's smart, but I said, sweetheart, there's all these Chinese counterfeits of our stuff, and people, if I don't have a platform on Amazon, I can't then control what's sold there. But I don't promote it. I have a legal toehold there so that I can then make sure that Amazon doesn't hurt me with the enemies. Okay, and so
that's how you're obliged to behave under monopoly conditions.
Yes.
If Amazon has a virtual monopoly, or indeed a de facto real, actual monopoly, which it is rapidly acquiring in not just online sales, but now with Whole Foods and whatever, offline sales in certain product categories, you're obliged to do business with the enemy if you don't want to be annihilated by counterfeiters and by rival products. You have no option but to have a presence on Amazon whose parent company's publication is dedicated to your destruction. That's what happens under monopolies. That's why we have monopoly laws.
Exactly. And Dr. Pieczenik, I understand, you're a smart, analytical guy. I'm upset, but I'm letting the dog off the leash. It's not fake what I'm doing, but I'm letting myself be upset because this is a raping. And again, I knew it was coming. It's the whole way they do it. They say, Jones is saying no kids died, and it's all completely fake. And I didn't say that. If people want to say it, that's their right to say it. Then they say, that's why we're taking them down. And then CNN says they're filing the complaints and are trying to take us down. And then they're over there trying to take David Knight's, his own YouTube channel away. And the guy's a complete gentleman. They're a bunch of criminal, frickin' lying scum, man. And I'm sick of their crap.
It's the same playbook. They took me off Twitter because they said that I had led a racist mob against Leslie Jones. I didn't send a single racist tweet. I didn't say a single thing.
You said this movie's going to flop.
This movie's going to flop. And I defended her in the movie. And then online, I made a couple of jokes about the fact that she's ugly, which she is. I never said anything remotely racist. Other people on the internet did that, but they said that I was responsible, that I'd done it, and that I'd led a mob without providing a single piece of evidence, which is exactly what they do to you when they say you're Russia-controlled, you said this about Florida. They don't provide any evidence, any clips, because they can't, because you didn't. What they do is they associate you with
half my family fought the damn Russians during the Cold War. It's a load of crap.
Yeah, they associate you with genuinely unsavory characters, which is why Richard Spencer's name appears next to mine in every news report, because they want to suggest that I'm the same as him. And they do the same things with you.
Yeah, because you guys, you don't really look the same, but they think people are so dumb. Oh, they do that all the time. Dr. Pieczenik, you ran psychological operations at the State Department. You're a famous guy. And I said, like, one time we were going to have, the guy from The Right Stuff on Chuck Yeager. And people are asking, who's Chuck Yeager? So it's like people don't know who famous people are that have done stuff for our country. And, you know, interesting, I'm not saying Pieczenik's Chuck Yeager. He's not that cool, but he's done a lot of cool stuff. But, I mean, does it not freak you out to see that we're like becoming, this is like Soviet Union crap. Yeah. And these people are like, it's a clear and present danger. Trump needs to move against them. He needs to break up these monopolies. Instead, he's got Rupert Murdoch reportedly has basically crawled up his rear end.
All right, well, let's go back to a couple of years. We were talking about the end of the newspapers for a long time. This was for years on coming. We saw the New York Times screaming. We saw the Fox News screaming. We saw CNN.
Yeah, but they're trying to take us down with them.
I understand. The key that it has to be turned around is, number one, you've got to pick the points which are vulnerable. As I just told you, Disney took over Fox. That was a big mistake for Murdoch, because Murdoch needed the money. He can't run it anymore. His son, who was compromised in England, is now the head of it. But Bob Iger understands, if you refuse to buy Disney products, refuse to go to the Disney movies, refuse to go to the Disney Channel, the children don't listen to Disney. And all of this counterpunching occurs very specifically. In war, you always have to find the center of gravity. The center of gravity right now is Disney, which is highly vulnerable. The reason I know it's vulnerable because ESPN went into the toilet. I know Bob Iger very well. Tom Clancy and I had problems with him. We know he is not the brightest guy in the world. We know he's desperate, and we know Disney is spinning out of control. So you look at Disney and you start to tell your audience, don't buy the Disney products. Then we shift over to the cable news system and the cable tax, and inform your audience that you no longer want to be in the cable business. So what are people doing? They're literally cutting the cables to say, we're not watching this anymore. And if you have 10
and everything else is plunging. The NFL, the Oscars, they're now saying, oh, don't be political, but they exactly. So here's what I'm saying. Here's what I want the audience to understand. This isn't about Infowars. They admit we've been chosen as the test case. They're going to try to block everybody now, from a local florist to a rock band, to a hip hop group, to a preacher, to an author, you know, a former spy chief like yourself, stuff like that. I mean, this is a total culture takeover of the internet, and no one even recognizes it because they've got the left to think, oh, we're going to take out Milo and Alex Jones and Matt Drudge. And no, they think we're so stupid. They write battle plans in the Wall Street Journal, how they're going to take everything over. And they put on screen, I'm a former KKK leader on CNN. I protest the KKK. This is the level of their crap, and they don't want me to be able to respond. So the only reason I'm freaking out is it's this huge brazen announcement, and they're doing it, and they've already put these strikes. They're taking our channels down, I guess, as we speak. I just want people to know this is the most serious yet. They've been testing the perch for a long time. This is the main assault, Dr. Pieczenik, and people have to know they're coming after everything. This is outrageous, Doctor.
The key to this is also, look, you pull back and you've got to calm down a little bit. What they want from you is exactly the response that you're giving them. They want you to get so upset that they're getting joy and delight from something that really has no meaning whatsoever in terms of the real bottom dollar.
No, they're already dead. They've already fallen. They're already a joke. They're trying to pull us into the crypt with them.
Well, that's exactly it. You have a very viable product line. Your liquidity is going up. You're going out to incorporate and have a worldwide dissemination of news. Let me assure you, there are people within the system that will not allow you to go under. As simple as that. You have been a very effective outlet for many of us within the government, or whatever you want to call it, that has been fighting the alternative deep state. You will not go under, I can assure you, for the same reason that Google is tied in hip and neck to the National Geospatial Agency. They cannot get away from that. In the same way that Bezos is tied in with the CIA with hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. And Bezos knows that. Amazon can fall very quickly. And that's what the issue becomes. They're afraid because they're vulnerable. You're not part of the entourage. As Milo said, you and I and he, we're not part of any of this. We have been the black swan for over 12 to 17 years. But you've survived. CNN will not survive. Fox News will not survive because Roger Ailes left. I knew Roger when we worked together. In short, what's happening is you have to allow the animals to die and let them scream as they're screaming as you're building up your network all over the world.
Well, that's what Milo said, is that they're a dying animal. We'll be right back and get Milo's take on that. I'll tell you a little secret here, and I'll go back to Pieczenik and you because I'm ranting. I thought about not doing the show 10 years ago because I wasn't trying to expand. I just wanted to be a talk show host and expose globalism and thought other people would stand up and other smart people would take action, which has happened. And then they just messed with me so hard and tried to destroy me. I said, well, I'm going to get really big in their face. And now I could never quit because they wouldn't just let me go into abstention or you. They're going to just lie and never stop. I don't know how they found so many petty people who have a hard-on specifically for America, for free market, and for just being decent and telling the truth. I mean, I don't know. Is it something like, what's wrong with them, Milo?
There's something weird about every major CNN host. I don't know where they grow these people, but there's something. I just get that sort of like, I get the ick. You know, when you're like when you're dating and somebody does something really disgusting and suddenly you can never see them sexually again. Or when you see somebody on television and they just make you shudder and cringe and you get that sort of flash of disgust and fear and horror.
Yeah, why doesn't Brian Stelter know? And he
look at it.
He releases these photos.
Stop it. Take it away.
There's a bunch of, I found... That's for there's new ones. To type in Brian Stelter and hit Google Images.
Don't.
There's one where he does the same. He does it.
Type it. Do not. Type
he
it
looks like It the Clown. I mean, he doesn't know that is like I am a full-born maniac.
The dancing clown.
and there's clowns and the popcorn down here, and you look at it. Look at that face.
You're on a balloon.
The thing is, he releases these photos himself. This is official photos.
He looks like that on purpose.
Seriously, Dr. Pieczenik, you're a psychiatrist, but you know somebody when they've got that lunatic, whatever the face is, it's like I mean, if I saw somebody and they're like, I'd be like, look at my firearm. I mean, you know, it's like, I'm a total psychopath. Ryan Stelter me. I really like I'm Brian Stelter.
Stop it.
CNN likes you. I mean,
stop it.
Well, that's the face. That smile is, I'm not really showing you this, but that's who I really am. That's what I really do, Stelter. Son of a bitch. Sorry.
Rank your 3 spookiest CNN hosts. Who's number 1?
Stelter.
2.
Cooper.
3.
Como, just because he's a knuckle-dragging thug. I'd love to see you.
Not a bad list. Not a bad list. Don't even need.
I'm going to go back to, as a psychiatrist, that look on Stelter's face that he does everywhere says, I'm invincible. I'm in a lunatic power trip. I mean, I know you're not supposed to, we have the, what's the rule that goes back to Goldwater? You're not supposed to diagnose somebody from afar, but looking at Stelter, what do you make of him and his behavior?
He's not relevant. I mean, people who are dangerous.
He's not relevant. He looks like a serial killer. You can put his face on a horror movie package.
With all due respect, I've had a whole ward of serial killers. They're usually pretty quiet.
I know, I'm being sarcastic.
They don't say anything. So
he's not out weekends carving people up.
I don't know, sometimes.
Again, the Stony, the Sandy Hook and this Parkland, they're all false flags. And what you're looking at is the nonsense of the vestiges of the press trying to be relevant, as well as the FBI and a crooked. What you
so
really
how long does this ghost dance go on then?
Well, the ghost dance goes on as long as the collusion between the state and the federal and the local individuals who want money is going to continue. And I don't think that's going to be very long, because what's happening in effect is that they've focused away, the entire news spectrum has focused away from the real issues, impending war in the Middle East. I've got an internal disruption in the White House where someone may be leaving, like McMaster, go to Fort Benning. There may be a problem of John Kelly leaving. So you've got all this distraction, intentional or unintentional, going on, but you are becoming more and more relevant. So is Milo. Let me ask you this very question. When would a Milo have come onto an Alex Jones show 17 years ago? Think of how much progress has been made. And
no, I know you're being positive. I'm just saying without the audience.
No, I'm talking about such a paradigm shift in this country that a certain individual as bright as Milo, with his own background, with a British background, and Paul Watson can come on an American show and articulate very clearly what we Americans want in the heartland. You're not talking about Harvard. You're not talking about Berkeley. Yeah, right. You're talking about Texas and Austin. Now, you can go around like that, and that's what we call the hebephrenic schizophrenic, but they are not teachers.
That's what I'm asking. Looking at that face Stelter always makes, I've noticed lunatics like who are delusional, like they make that face. I know some crazy people. And they make that face. They walk around like that constantly. We have a name for it. It's a you-know-what eating grin. What? Does he not know? That's not even the bad ones, guys. Go. You know what? Keep going, Doctor. No, Milo, you host for a minute. I got to go find the right photo. Go ahead. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
We will be putting no more.
Dr. Pieczenik, I want to get into sex operatives of the president. Start telling us about that.
Fine. Go ahead, Doctor.
I got to find Stelter.
What did he say, Milo? I'm sorry.
Sex operatives and the president. He'd like your view on that.
I don't think there are many sex operatives in the president. The president had a history of...
Well, it's an easy way, isn't it, to get at Trump by spreading around stories of his dalliances because it's so eminently believable.
I know, but it's so irrelevant, Milo, as you would know.
Well, none of his fans care. Would a single person who voted for Donald Trump give a stuff that he'd been in the Beverly Hills Hotel with a model? No, they'd say, go Donald.
That's exactly it. That's his personal life. We're not interested. What we are interested is, number one, why isn't there an effective infrastructure deal? Number two, what are you going to do about the fact that Bibi is going to be indicted and we don't need a war in the Middle East, and Iran has already taken over Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, and Syria, and we're going to have a two-front war, which we have to decide very quickly as McMaster is being thrown out of the White House and John Kelly may be thrown out of the White House. So those are the things, Milo, that we really have to think about quickly because the mainstream media doesn't give a damn. They don't understand it. You understand it, Milo. You come from a background where you understand it. You come from a country that's been attacked. This country has never had the hardships that England had to endure, not only before World War II, the World War I, World War II. I mean, you lost over 3 million of your men in the first 90 days of World War I in England. Americans have no concept what that means. And when, if it's true, 17 kids died, and I doubt that, how do you compare that with 69,000 kids who are dying on heroin every day? We are having thousands dying on heroin. How do you compare that with
the 70-plus veterans that commit suicide? And I think mass shootings happen. They misrepresent what I say. I know they do the fake baby incubator stuff, so those good things go on. All I know is they're deplatforming us, saying I said that, not my guest, and doing it, and that is very dangerous to free speech. But
Alex, you can incriminate me because I went to the Harvard supervisor, so-called trained, the Harvard psychiatrist who did that phony profile, Adam Lanza, and they admitted it was phony. The guy trained behind me at Harvard, and that area, mass mental, is gone, and Yale Medical School is in trouble. They were the same ones who said that Trump was crazy, and we warned them, if you continue, you're going to get lawsuits. So in effect, what you're doing, step back a little bit. Milo understands it. I want you to know that you're much more effective when we attack specific targets. Right now, the specific target is the White House. It's in turmoil. We don't see it.
Well, let's come back and talk about that and get your take and Milo's take, because it was Roger Stone said 6 months ago McMaster's in trouble and all this other stuff. So he's been dead on about that. You talk about the turmoil. From your information, I mean, how do you think Trump's doing, or what's your word on them? We'll come back and get Pieczenik's take on that.
What seems to be a state of perpetual crisis in there, doesn't it? You know, it's sort of united only by the transcendent iron will of one man who is singularly responsible for the train's wheels keeping on turning, but everything else around him sees...
The Trumpian juggernaut.
Right, indeed. Otherwise, it seems to be a state of sort of perpetual fear, crisis, and paralysis. But I mean, I come from the stop it.
I'm Brian Stelter. I'm Brian Stelter, CNN reporter.
I come from the point of view that the less the government does, the better. So a White House which doesn't get us into any more wars and doesn't pass any new legislation is all right by me.
Where do you think the winder goes on him? Is it on his back? You like wind up?
Yes, so that when somebody's... Actually, I can't say that because we go out to radio stations, but I'm just that he could be wound up at the same time as getting... Never mind.
All right, we're going to go to break. Oh, briefly, they're trying to shut us down. We're under total attack. Got great supplements. I never came up with new specials this week. So we got all the 50% off, basically all the top-selling products, and it's about to have to end. Infowarstore.com. If you find us, we can continue. If not, Brian Stelter will win. So, buy lots of products, or Brian Stelter is going to have his way with you.
I don't know what will.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
We confirm suspicions at Veritas. It's not a shock to you, but to get the employee at YouTube on tape admitting that they do it? I mean, you must be a threat if they call you out by name.
It's also what happens when you listen to the radio host, Alex Jones.
As of just a short time ago, and I'm talking about when this meeting started, on Twitter, if you clicked on the hashtag NYC terrorist attack, which is, quote, trending, marked with a red button saying, quote, live, the top tweet links to an Infowar story with the headline, Imam, I warned de Blasio about New York City terror. He was too busy bashing Trump.
I don't know what happens in somebody's mind or how dark their heart must be to say things like that.
This is a real-time example of when we talk about this information being weaponized.
But Trump doesn't challenge these lies. He actually went on Jones's show and said,
your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope.
He still calls Alex Jones and talks to him, and, you know, the Infowars, conspiracy theories.
How quickly can you act, and what's your responsibility to set the record straight so that the people who saw this know that it's fake news, and at least at some point in time it can't keep spreading like some sort of virus through the legitimate world.
That's something we're thinking about all the time, because it's a bad user experience, and we don't want to be known as a platform for that.
the Russians ran an extensive information war campaign against my campaign to influence voters in the election. They did it through false news sites. They did it through these 1,000 agents. They did it through machine learning, which, you know, kept spewing out this stuff over and over again. And they began to have some of their allies within the internet world, like Infowars, take out pieces and began to say the most outrageous, outlandish, absurd lies you can imagine.
Google is being accused of hiding negative stories about Hillary and her campaign by changing its algorithm to bury stories like the Clinton body count story. That's according to website Infowars.
You have RT, you have Sputnik, you have Rupley, and then I think you have them feeding other entities. Infowars comes to mind, where those are echo chambers.
It's been widely reported that that company's been backed by the Kremlin, and they gave you 75,000 shares that you had to disclose when you went into the Obama administration.
Maybe you're looking at widely reported information from Infowars.
No, I'm not.
But it is not
No, I'm not.
true.
This is Politico. This is the New York Times. This is the Wall Street Journal.
No, it's
That's
not.
What I'm looking.
If a Google user types in Clinton body, they get car repair shop results instead of a story that talks about a list of people tied to the Clintons who have died under mysterious circumstances over the last 3 decades. Now, the latest story was the death of DNC staffer Seth Rich, who was murdered last month in an apparent robbery. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has hinted that Rich was his source, but has made no further comments about the case. That murder, we should say, remains unsolved.
The Russians, in my opinion, and based on the intel and counter-intel people I've talked to, could not have known how best to weaponize that information unless they had been guided.
All that stuff exists. You don't see it, you don't feel it if you're largely living in reality and in a mainstream media world. But it's undermining our democracy, and I think that the companies themselves, they've taken some steps. They have a lot of responsibility.
Companies like Facebook.
Like Facebook, Google, etc.
Right.
To do what they can to essentially not enhance this.
How quickly can you act, and what's your responsibility to set the record straight?
The system self-corrected. That shouldn't be the first tweet you see anymore. It should be a USA article the last time I checked.
But you saw this.
USA Today. At lunch I did, yeah. And I also saw the system correct it.
That man's a threat to this country.
They didn't call out Fox News by name. They didn't call out anyone else by name. They said, when it comes to Alex Jones, we need people to scroll and manually find him and manually have to find that video. We're not going to allow that video, if it gets 10 million views, to be on the front of the so-called news carousel.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
It's Alex Jones.
As the Infowars family of listeners and viewers know, we are always researching and bringing you the very cutting edge of high quality products. And that's especially true when it comes to nutraceuticals and supplements. We know that our modern environment is bombarding our guts with all sorts of toxins and heavy metals and pesticides, herbicides that basically kill the good flora. We have been working for several years with top researchers in the United States to bring you 3 new top-of-the-line, affordable probiotics that are true game changers. Now, the first is a digestive enzyme that I'm extremely excited about. All of us know that if you eat a lot of meat and a lot of protein and you don't chew it properly, sometimes there's buildup. It can even rot inside your guts, causing diverticulitis, you name it. You don't get the good micronutrients that are in it as well. Well, Carnivore from Infowars Life, ladies and gentlemen, is the next level of digestive enzyme. And when you take it combined with the new Flora Life that I'm going to break down here in a moment, and also the everyday Flora Life maintenance, they synergistically work together. The globalists are bombarding our gut. They know it's the key to taking control of civilization and society. It is the true Trojan horse. And whether it's our new digestive enzyme, Carnivore, or whether it's the new Flora Life Advanced Restoration or the Flora Life Everyday Maintenance, it is critical for you and your family to have healthy guts, and it is undoubted that there are serious benefits from proven high-quality probiotics. There are some similar formulas out there that are at least 3 times the cost of this. And people think because they're paying more, it must be the best. That's not my philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm bringing you something that is the very best from our deep research, working with top developers, scientists, and experts in the field at the lowest price. But whether you take 1, 2, or all 3, I have never experienced the type of energy and the type of digestive ease and the changes that I went through in the last few months going on this formula before we brought it to you. We believe from working with top experts in the United States that we have developed the very best probiotic and digestive enzyme for breaking down protein and meat that there is. This is the total win-win. It uses the modern techniques as well, so it doesn't have all the additives and garbage. Simply put, our new Flora Life line is the very best out there. That is my goal here, is to bring you the very best at the lowest price. Many probiotics out there don't even have caplets that bypass the stomach, so it never even gets into the upper and lower intestines. Both of these systems have targeted delivery, so it goes right through into the upper and lower intestine. We've tried several other formulas that were excellent, but this is, after 2 years of research, what we are bringing to the market. And your purchase doesn't just give you better digestive health and all the different micronutrients and things you need. It also funds an organization dedicated to promoting liberty worldwide. Whether it's Floralife Advanced Restoration, Carnivore, Digestive Enzyme, or the everyday maintenance that's great for the go, it's all available at InfoWarsStore.com today. And when you purchase it, you know you are also financing the attack on the globalist and the defense of our republic and freedom worldwide.